Should we go ahead with status updates? I don't have, from my side, too much to share. I've been reviewing some PRs and taking a look at this Buildpack package refactor, which I put on the agenda. So.
Nice. Yeah, I've been working on sort of swapping analyzer and detector in a draft PR and sort of simultaneously getting the spec stuff going for allowing another order toml in the resolution. So getting those things hopefully wrapped up soon-ish, depending on where they're going to go, I guess, which version. So.
I'm waiting for my PR with them adding manifest size to report the toml to be hopefully merged soon. So if anyone can also review it and so we can merge it, it will be great. And I didn't have a lot of time to work on the other issue that I picked up last week regarding the default process. But I hope to continue working on this today.
I have once again not really had time to focus much on the purview of this subteam.
Cool. If there are no more updates, we can move on to release planning. I feel like probably not a lot has changed from last week, but I can share my screen so that we can look at the milestone. I pulled this up in our stand-up. Oops, not that one. Cycle. Here's the milestone. The 14 open and 0 closed was worrying me a little. But how's everyone else feeling?
Hopefully you'll have one closed really soon. Crossing finger.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I mean, we talked about it last week or the week before. I'm not sure what's the right way to look at our release, whether to put everything that we want in it and then take out things that are not going to. I mean, we're not going to finish on time, or just put just a little bit every time. I feel that the first approach is making us feel bad. Like now we have 14 open, 0 close. But I don't have any preference.
I guess I would ask, is it about the contents of the release that's making us feel bad, or the speed of progress?
Personally, I put this thing that I've been working on the agenda. I kind of wanted to talk about that both in the sense of does this make sense what I'm doing, but also kind of, does it make sense that I'm working on this now? Because there are there's reasons why that could be a good idea and reasons why maybe it's better to be focusing on the actual features of the next APIs. But I don't know. That was, I think, maybe part of the reason why I was feeling a little worried, because the current thing that I'm looking at feels like a big task that has a fair amount of uncertainty in it.
Refactor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I won't feel too bad so long as everything that's at least tagged Buildpacks or Platform 06 make it in, right? That's really the goal of this next release, right? Everything else is just sort of bonus. At least that's kind of what we said.
There are not too many issues, that are not tagged with either Platform API or Buildpacks API or bags. I mean, there are just like 2 or 3. And we also talked about adding more acceptance tests with this release. So it's just, I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit too much. I'm not sure.
Yeah, sounds like we'll have to kick some things out. I do worry though, because one of the reasons we want to get the refactor in is so that stack packs have a better place to work from, right? So we're not combining refactoring with stack packs. And also the acceptance tests for obvious reasons.
You can always decide to push back, like,
Yeah,
to move.
if we always kick it out,
Yeah.
then is next release going to be any different, right?
Oh no, I meant like decide to release not at the beginning of March, but the beginning of April, and then we'll have 1 more month to do everything as we need. But again, I'm not sure what's the right approach.
Like one thing we could do is we usually do both the platform and the build pack in a single release, but they're decoupled, right? So there's no reason that that's a requirement. We could ship just platform or just build pack.
So
Oh,
I had a question about that actually, because I was remembering the RFC for this like build packs and contributing their own process type. And I remember that it kind of came hand in hand with this platform API bump, that they were kind of joined for that reason.
I think that's the one issue where there's like a little bit of weirdness. But I think you could still ship just the platform, right? So if we say the platform's job is to assume build packs with API less than 06, want web to be the default, and newer ones will it specify their default, we could still ship that logic. Like right now, that looks like we assume web's the default always.
when we have a problem to test platform API 06, well, Buildpack API 06 won't be out.
I think you could get creative, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Like it's not perfect, but it's not impossible. It's not
Yeah,
so impossible
yeah.
that
You're right.
that if we had a strong reason to decouple the releases, that we shouldn't do it.
Okay.
I would just kind of been looking at this, and with the exception of the Windows stuff, which I'll be honest, I'm like, don't feel 100% I have a good grasp on it. But with the exception of these 2 issues, like everything else that's part of the APIs feels like a relatively manageable, like small chunk of work actually. Like the biggest stuff in this milestone are all the other stuff we threw in there. So I'm not as worried actually about meeting the API goals.
I guess it will
Except for
depend whether Lifecycle should validate stack IDs. I think this is sort of the big thing. The reordering of the phases falls into this. It's not labeled within the API yet because it kind of came in here before the RFC did, but it could get labeled that way and then be a big chunk of work, right? That's the one thing, but I agree with you. Other than that, it's all pretty small potatoes.
It's kind of hard to find the balance. Like some of the stuff that I've been working on is like, I'm not really sure where it's going to land. Like the reversing of the order, it's not really in this milestone, I don't think, but it's something that we're moving towards for stack packs. And then we've also got anyway, it just seems like the work that I'm have isn't represented in this milestone yet. And I don't know if that's just like a reporting thing or if that I'm working on the wrong thing, I guess, quotation marks. I don't know.
Well, is it Lifecycle should validate stack IDs? I feel like to actually do that, you would need to reorder, right?
True. That one, I forgot about that one. Yeah, that one.
So for doing this as part of this milestone, then I imagine the reordering has to come in as well. or they both need to move to the next milestone.
Okay, that makes sense. I'll add my face to that one.
I propose that we move on because I don't think we're going to get much like more concrete action at this point. But does anyone feel differently?
Yeah, I wonder, my one action would be, can we look for people to help work on this more? Like, do we know anyone that we could co-opt into helping more with the milestone? Just thinking about it, it seems like if I got people concretely working on things that are in the milestone right now, there's only 2 people, Yael and Natalie. Although what Jesse's doing, like, I think will end up in the milestone. So I would say 3, but that can be slow, right? It's not that surprising it's going slow.
Also, I feel that the problem is, I mean, my PR was in last week, but we also want to like do the review process. It also takes a lot of time. It takes time from, for example, from Natalie from like working on her own issue. So it's like, yeah, we need more people probably.
All right, let's move on. Sorry, Natalie.
Okay. So I guess we did our standing item, and let's look at needs discussion. There's only one, although I also meant to add the needs discussion, this PR that that I put up to try to fix the compilation on Darwin. So I don't know which one we want to do first, but I kind of feel like getting our code compiling on our workstations is on main would be ideal. Maybe I'll just pull that up very quickly. It's this pin to an older version of XSys, which we've already merged into ImageUtil. And
Sorry if I wasn't supposed to merge that yet.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I think we had kind of aligned that was the goal. But then we were like still having second thoughts, I guess. And I think personally, I don't know what are the alternatives up other than waiting for GGCR to bump their version of Docker, which they were like kind of looking at. So, it sounds like, maybe that's something that we could hope for in the next release, but given their cadence is about, once a month, like that seems like a long time to wait. So, could either
Feelings about the replace.
just, unknowns, I think.
Will it help to move back to their previous release? Do we want to do that?
That blocks certain other things. Like we were just talking last week about going up to help out other workflows, right? But I mean,
yeah,
it's worth asking. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, you know what we could do? Matt Moore really wants the release with GGCR bumped, right? And he also maintains a GGCR. So we could try to tell him that this is blocking the thing he wants, and then maybe we can get the GGCR change prioritized.
Does he need 040 or 030? Because 030 is fine.
Oh, well, maybe it won't work as well then. Yeah, let's just do what it takes to make everything compile, right? Whether that's a replace or a downgrade, I don't really care. If it's a replace, my question would be, what are we worried about? It sounds like it's something to do with Windows. Can we, do the validation so we don't have to worry about it anymore? Like, let's get something into main that works. And because this release isn't close to done, we'll have time to reevaluate how confident we are shipping it later.
if we're cutting a 0.10.2 for the East ARG stuff, should we branch that off of the 030 GGCR? Like if we feel more comfortable with our Go mod at that version?
That sounds right to me.
Okay. Well, thank you for the clear direction. I feel like that at least unblocks us in that area, and we can work on getting the release shipped soon because there's no other open questions. Does anyone have anything else to add on this topic? Okay. So I'm going to move back to our needs discussion, but I'm also very mindful that this is the second sub-team sync that Dan has joined, trying to discuss his his bug, and I didn't want to leave time for that.
You want to do that first then?
Yeah, could we? Dan, you want to take it away?
Sure. I don't think this will take very long because it's more of like a, I don't want to say call for help, but like, oh, call for direction.
Yeah.
I guess should, okay, awesome. Yeah, so I guess in summary, this is a bug that we get when we're pushing images that have large layers up to Docker Hub. And the reason it happens is because it takes quite a long time to actually do gzip compression, especially when we just like do it on demand because we're using all these readers. So the time it takes to like compress a byte and then send it as a chunk in our request is pretty long. And so we just like give Docker Hub all these tiny little chunks that are like 256 bits long or bytes long. So, and it really doesn't like that very much. So there's like some pretty easy fixes all around, like where do we buffer stuff before putting it in one of these requests? And some of them are much easier, like this, where we just add like an extra flag, but then they have like larger consequences to how the life cycle works and how much memory it'll be using when we're actually exporting layers. So.
And this is in the publish case with large layers.
Yeah.
What exactly is going wrong?
Yeah, so we get a 504 back when we try and publish these large layers because we basically gzip compress everything right before we need to put it into a request, right? And that we do, because GGCR does like one massive request per layer, it's broken up into these little chunks, like just by the HTTP protocol. And because it takes a long time for gzip compression to actually give the request these bytes, you just get all of these extremely small pieces of a request. And Docker Hub is not super happy about that.
Because GGCR is compressing as it uploads the layer.
Yep, exactly.
Is it really GGCR or is it our pipeline that essentially like we're just streaming the data, right? So we're streaming the data in chunks that are too tiny that the Docker Hub service doesn't like, is the way I interpret it.
And we're using a tarball new layer and giving it to GGCR.
Yep.
We could probably do something on our end. To me, this feels like a GGCR problem that I might want to open an issue for. Because if you're saying, you know, using their tarball library to make a layer, and then we're writing the layer using their remote write I feel like those two things should work together.
Yeah. Okay. That totally makes sense.
But
Yeah.
you're saying Crane works fine. I wonder, like, if they're using what they're doing differently. Are they using tarball with cache compression?
Yeah. So actually, the Crane works okay just because all of the tests that we do aren't using, or all of the tests that you can do with Crane don't actually like, everything is already gzip compressed when you have these images. So you don't run into this problem at all. It's just like, okay, awesome. This is gzip compressed. All I have to do is stick it in a request and send it off. I don't have to like wait for these chunks to get generated. But yeah, I guess like the kind of question I have is like this third option would definitely save us time at other points in the life cycle running, right? Because we go over this tarball at least 2 times, no matter what. But it does mean that we just like end up storing a tarball that's like not compressed super well because we use pretty low compression settings. So it'll just like eat up a bunch of extra memory if we do this all the time, but it would make things go a little faster, and kind of like whether that's a worthwhile trade-off and where the boundaries on those trade-offs are.
Yeah. If it speeds things up, I'm open to it. I guess my question would be like, how much more memory does it use, right?
Yeah, worst case, you completely duplicate the layers because it's like almost random data and the compression doesn't work very well on it.
Based on the size of the layer, essentially.
Yeah. But
Some of our images are really big, right?
yeah. Yeah. So it could be quite a bit. And the other thing is like, I think GGCR just does all of the layers at one time. It's just like, go forth. We're going to do everything at once, which is also, if we just changed that a little bit, it would make this way less intensive. But I don't know. There's a couple different levers we could pull.
Yeah. I feel like we should start by opening an issue in GDCR because I feel like they should fix this anyways.
Cool.
But we could look at mitigating it on our side too.
Okay.
I feel like I actually need to look at it more closely.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's probably hard to just come up with a decision point right now, but I think that's fine. We can probably move on. There's 5 minutes left, and if there's not going to be like instant resolution, then as long as I can like get an extra pair of eyes on this. So thanks.
Thank you. Also, kudos for figuring that all out. That was a crazy, crazy bug.
Got a lot of help.
I guess let's just circle back on the other issue that needs discussion. I added this following an inquiry that came through Slack. Someone was noticing that the life cycle was emitting error code 401 and it was showing as 145. So there's, I guess, been a request to compress the ranges that we're using for error codes so that it fits within a limit that works with Bash.
Mea culpa. I didn't realize there was a limit in Bash.
Yeah, we probably have to research Windows too. Like, I don't actually know what their limits are.
Good point. Let's put this here.
But in general, yeah, like this would need to be a spec issue, but we're not going to use all 100 error codes, right?
Are the ranges themselves actually spec'd right now?
Yeah, they are.
Oh, okay. I see. So this is probably not going, well, just wondering if this is something we're targeting for the next release, but we need an RFC, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I think just a spec PR.
Okay. Okay, that's it for needs discussion. There are a couple others that we didn't get to. I see someone has added change from 30 to 60, which, given that we consistently run out of time, might be something we explore. But
I do have time today if we want to extend it. I don't know what everyone else's schedule is. Probably too soon to.
I see that Emily doesn't have them.
I don't have a meeting after this, but I have a bunch of people yelling at me about things that I'm late on. So I'd like to get back to them.
Yeah.
I apologize.
That totally makes sense.
But
Just wonder.
I don't
mean,
want that to stop y'all from talking for another 30 minutes if you'd like to.
No,
And I'm happy to do it in the future.
Yeah, I added this because again, every week we're like running out of time.
Yeah. What PRs do folks want reviews on right now? Like that might be something. Like I know there's a lot floating around, and someone mentioned earlier they were waiting on reviews or whatever. I'd love to. Which ones are we interested in getting eyes on? I can devote the next half hour looking at some of these. For me, at
so,
least.
for the ones that are open, I think Yael's PR, I was about to
Manifest
approve it. But if someone wants to give it a second set of eyes, that would be awesome.
There's 43 comments on that one. I haven't looked at that one at all. I don't think that's a lot of comments. I don't know.
It's all
such a
Nally.
simple-
It's all Nally. Thank you.
I think it's in pretty good shape. Just like, sanity check. It looks like this.
Oh yeah,
this
that one
was-
needs to be closed to prepare analyzer to be run. I can tell Joe to close that one because I basically just started over when we decided to do it that way.
And then this one we talked about. Oh, sorry. This one, Jose opened this, and I had a question about whether this needs to be gated on a API bump. This is for adding the CNB like working dir to the image. Do you remember
I want to
this? It's
say
like
no, but it's
setting-
probably yes. Like since we're changing the resulting image, but
Yeah, I think we would. It's interesting, right? Because we don't say anywhere in the spec that we don't change the working dir or that the stack working dir.
it's true. It's just undocumented
Stays.
features. Yeah.
Like I think the next version of the spec will require that this is set in the working dir. I think that's true. But I don't think that means we can't change it all the time. Like I don't think we have to do an API check here. I think it's fine if we just set the working dir.
Okay, that's awesome. I
Awesome.
added that as a comment to the RFC, but I can update it. Oops. So those are all the open ones, and then the ones that are in draft. Like I know, Jesse, are you ready for feedback on sort of?
Yeah, it's kind of blocked by the spec PR
Mhm.
that needs to occur. I think the RFC's just now getting enough approvals that it will probably be FCP next week. So I don't think we're ready to like completely move on this, but it's close enough that I think we could get some final feedback so it could move quickly, I guess, whenever that does happen.
And this build pack code package, I have to say that I feel a little uncertain because there seems like there's a kind of different directions we could go with this one. And I shared this with the CNB contrib, at VMware team in one of our earlier meetings and got a lot of good ideas. But I'm kind of at a place where I'm hoping to circulate it with people who have knowledge of the lifecycle code and at a high level, like that, pulling this stuff into its own package is made complicated by the fact that we have these structs that are all kind of connected, and in addition to holding data, they have functionality tied with them, and so like having a clean, separated interface is somewhat challenging.
Yeah, I recently read some Go articles on how to structure the stuff or how the Go team structures some of this. I'm sure you've seen some of it too. So yeah, I'll take a look as well and maybe yeah, see if I can pull anything out of my head that I remember from reading all that stuff that might help us.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. Cool. Do we want to, I guess, adjourn, but try to find like a scheduled hour next week? Awesome. All right. Guess that's it.